Hey, everyone. All right, so we've got this Joe Rogan interview with Mark Zuckerberg
Yeah.
that somebody sent me,
Oh, yeah, this is gonna be good.
and we're gonna take a deep dive into it.
Yeah, let's unpack some of this.
I'm really interested in a couple things. His evolution
Yeah.
on
You
free speech,
and how his personal life has kind of played into it.
right? And also I want to get into this whole AI thing
Absolutely. That was a big part of this interview.
and how he thinks that's gonna play into the future of tech.
Yeah, he's got some pretty bold predictions.
Yeah, I mean, like some of this stuff is kind of scary, but
That's for
also
sure. A little bit sci-fi.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what makes it so compelling.
So let's start with the free speech thing.
All right. So, you know how he used to be all about like absolute free expression?
Yeah, like
Wow.
that was his kind of initial vision for Facebook, right?
Exactly, like a digital utopia where everyone could say whatever they wanted.
But then reality kind of hit with things like the 2016 election and COVID,
Right, and that's where things started to shift.
when misinformation just ran rampant.
Yeah, he realized that unrestricted free speech on a platform that size.
Could actually be dangerous.
Absolutely. It's like
Yeah.
you can't just let everything go unchecked.
Right. So how did he reconcile that with his initial ideals?
Well, it seems like he went through a period of kind of grappling with it.
I mean, who wouldn't? It's a tough issue.
For sure, and he talks about how like becoming a father actually influenced his thinking.
Really? How so?
Well, he started thinking about the world his kids would grow up in.
And the impact of online content.
Exactly, and he realized that, just letting anything go wasn't responsible.
Especially with something as powerful as Facebook.
Right. It's like this massive platform that shapes opinions and influences elections.
Yeah, that's a huge responsibility.
So he had to evolve his thinking on free speech, find some kind of balance.
Between protecting users from harmful content and still allowing for open expression.
Yeah, and it's not an easy balance to strike.
Not at all. And it seems like he got some pushback on his attempts to moderate content,
Oh, yeah. He talked about some pretty intense situations with government officials.
like trying to pressure him to censor certain things.
Right. Even a Leonardo DiCaprio meme, apparently.
Wait, seriously, I mean,
Yeah, he didn't go into specifics, but, it illustrates the point.
that even seemingly harmless content can become a target for censorship.
Exactly. And it raises all these questions about who gets to decide what's acceptable online.
And how do we prevent governments from overstepping their bounds?
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. And it makes you wonder,
Like, where do we draw the line?
right, how do we ensure free speech while also protecting people from harmful content?
It's a tightrope walk for sure, and one that Zuckerberg's still figuring out.
It sounds like it, but he's definitely not afraid to criticize others for their approaches to this.
Oh, no, he's very outspoken about that.
Like, what's his beef with Apple?
Well, he calls it a walled garden approach.
A walled garden. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means Apple controls everything within its ecosystem.
Like what apps you can download
Exactly, and how much you pay for them.
and what developers can and can't do.
Right, so Zuckerberg argues that this stifles innovation and limits consumer choice.
Because you're stuck in Apple's world.
Right, you can only shop at their store, so to speak.
And he claims that Meta would be way more profitable if not for Apple's restrictions.
Yeah, he thinks those restrictions are actually hurting his business.
So it's like a philosophical battle, too.
Oh, absolutely. Apple's all about control and curation, while Zuckerberg
Is more about openness and letting users have choices.
Right. And this clash is playing out across the tech industry.
It's a pretty big deal.
It really is, with implications for how we interact with technology in the future.
It makes you wonder, who's really looking out for the users in all this?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a digital showdown between giants,
And we're all kind of caught in the middle.
trying to figure out who to trust and what to believe.
Exactly. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the AI stuff yet.
We've got a lot more to unpack.
This is getting really interesting.
It is. We're just getting started. So before we jump to the break, we were talking about traditional media kind of losing its grip and these online creators taking over.
Yeah, and I'm curious what Zuckerberg thinks all that means for the future. Like, where are we headed with all this?
Well, he actually compares it to the early days of television.
Okay, how so?
Like back then, TV was super formal, almost like watching a play on stage.
Right, yeah.
But as TV evolved, new types of communicators came along, people who could connect with the audience more personally.
Like less stuffy, more relatable.
Exactly. And he sees the same thing happening online right now with these creators building these massive followings.
Because they're authentic. They're not reading from a teleprompter.
Right. It's that genuine connection that people are craving.
But doesn't that also come with risks? Like, not all these creators are spreading good information?
Oh, for sure. You've got misinformation and harmful content out there.
So how does Zuckerberg think we should handle that?
Well, he admits that Facebook made some mistakes in their early attempts to fact check everything.
What kind of mistakes?
Well, they were relying on these third-party organizations to decide what was true or false.
And that created problems.
Yeah, it led to accusations of bias and censorship.
So they were trying to stop the spread of misinformation.
But they ended up suppressing legitimate viewpoints too.
Yikes. Talk about a rock and a hard place.
Right, and then there was this whole thing with Pete Buttigieg.
What happened there?
So when he was nominated for Secretary of Defense, Facebook's algorithms might have flagged some content related to him
Right.
because of his stance on women in combat roles.
Oh, wow. So even a super nuanced issue like that can get caught up in the system?
Yeah, and it shows how hard it is to define what harmful content actually is.
And how easy it is to accidentally censor something important?
Exactly. It's a constant struggle to find that balance.
So what's Facebook doing now to address these issues?
Well, Zuckerberg thinks their current approach is better.
Which is,
They're focusing more on community notes and transparency.
so instead of relying on algorithms or fact checkers,
They're giving users the power to flag content and provide context.
I kind of like that it's like crowdsourcing the truth.
In a way, yeah, it's putting more trust in the community to self-regulate.
But let's be real, there are going to be people who abuse that system.
Oh, for sure. There are always bad actors.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, definitely a work in progress.
But speaking of works in progress, let's talk about AI.
Oh, yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
I mean, Zuckerberg shared that story about the AI chatbot that tried to break free.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy.
Like straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right, but it also raises some serious questions about AI safety.
Yeah, like how do we prevent AI from becoming too powerful and turning against us?
Well, Zuckerberg thinks open source AI is the answer.
Wait, so instead of restricting AI development, he thinks we should make it more accessible.
Exactly. He argues that concentrating AI in the hands of a few is way more dangerous.
Like giving a gun to everyone is safer than giving it to just one person.
That's the analogy he uses.
I don't know if I buy that, but I get his point about the risks of concentrated power.
Right, and he envisions this future where AI is everywhere.
Like integrated into every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, he talked about things like holographic meetings and AI coworkers.
And even virtual objects overlaid on the real world.
Like you could be walking down the street and see digital information popping up around you.
Wow, that sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, but Zuckerberg's actually working on making it a reality.
He's not messing around, is he?
Nope, and he's really excited about these neural interfaces they're developing.
Like those wristbands that let you control computers with your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the one.
That is some next level stuff.
For sure, and it raises all sorts of questions about privacy and control.
Like, are we going to become so reliant on these digital overlays that we lose touch with reality?
It's a valid concern.
So what does Zuckerberg say to people who are worried about all this?
He thinks this merging of the digital and physical will actually enhance our lives.
Like, make us more efficient, more connected.
Right, and he sees it as just the natural evolution of how we interact with technology.
It's a bold vision, that's for sure.
It is, and one that's bound to be controversial.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about some pretty fundamental changes to how we live and work.
Exactly, and Zuckerberg's not afraid to push the boundaries.
But on that note, let's take a quick break and we'll come back to unpack some more of this interview.
Sounds good.
You know, it's funny thinking about Zuckerberg, this tech guy, being so into jujitsu.
Right, like you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool that he's found this thing that totally takes him out of the digital world.
It shows that there's more to him than just Facebook and the metaverse.
Totally. And it makes me think about what we can learn from his journey. Like, how can we apply that to our own lives?
Well, one thing that stands out is his willingness to keep learning and adapting.
Like, he didn't just rest on his laurels after creating Facebook.
No, he's constantly pushing himself to grow, both personally and professionally.
And he's not afraid to try new things, even if they seem completely different from what he's known for.
Right, and I think that's something we can all learn from being open to new experiences and challenges.
It's about stepping outside your comfort zone and seeing where it takes you.
And remember, he didn't do it all alone. He had support from his wife and others.
It's true, like having a good support system can make a huge difference when you're trying to achieve something.
Definitely. And I think another takeaway is the importance of finding activities that bring you joy.
Like jujitsu for Zuckerberg.
Exactly. It could be anything for you, like music, art, sports, whatever, helps you de-stress and recharge.
It's about finding balance in your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely making time for things that make you feel good.
But before we get too zen, let's circle back to that Apple thing one more time.
Oh, yeah. Zuckerberg's definitely got some strong opinions about that.
He really seems to think that Apple's control over the App Store is holding back innovation.
He sees it as this closed system that benefits Apple at the expense of everyone else.
And he even claims that Meta would be making way more money if Apple wasn't so restrictive.
Yeah, he's not holding back on his criticism.
So it's like this fundamental disagreement about how the internet should work.
Right. Apple's all about control and curation, while Zuckerberg's more for openness and competition.
It's almost like two different philosophies clashing,
It is, and it's a battle that's going to continue to play out in the years to come.
with huge implications for the future of tech.
Exactly, and it makes you wonder what the digital landscape will look like in 10 or 20 years.
Will it be Apple's walled garden or Zuckerberg's open metaverse?
Or maybe something else entirely.
Who knows, but it's definitely going to be interesting to watch it all unfold.
It is, and I think that's the main takeaway from this whole deep dive.
That the future of tech is still being written.
Right, it's not predetermined, it's being shaped by the decisions we make today.
So it's up to us to engage in these conversations, question assumptions, and hold those in power accountable.
Exactly. We all have a role to play in shaping the digital world we want to live in.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better digital future.